Greetings. This is a follow-up video to the first video entitled Reading Construction Documents 1. This one will be Reading Construction Documents 2. In this video, I am going to, in the first video, I introduced this project and these drawings briefly, the Deli Flower and Garden Centers. It's a garden center, and this is a set of construction documents that I have for it. And before I go any further, let me just quickly show. This is the book. It's an academic book that this set of documents is from. It's called Print Reading for Construction by Walter Brown. We use it at the college in a class called Construction Print Reading and Specifications. It's a great book. It comes with about at least a half a dozen sets of different commercial and residential projects, and this is one of them. So with the textbook and these drawings, it's a fantastic resource for students, and we use them to teach how to read construction documents, obviously, and for other purposes in the college as well, in the department, in our architecture and construction department. So this video is a quick introduction to kind of an overview of how to read these drawings. The first part went through a presentation about all the tools that designers have when creating these documents, and now I'm going to specifically just focus in on these specific drawings. So let me just quickly put that up on the screen one more time. Here it is. And so it comes with this in this folder with all these different types of projects, as I mentioned. And this up here, top left, top right, bottom left, that's not part of the actual construction documents. Those are references to the academic book and this set of documents, multiple sets of documents, and they're so that's what that is, just to be clear. In the first part of this presentation, I discussed the title block and the importance of it, so I'm not going to go over that again. We also quickly looked and we also discussed all the different disciplines that create these documents, and these are civil documents, these first few sheets. You can see right here at the bottom right, it says 1 of 7, 4 of 7, 5 of 7. So there are 3 civil sheets. Again, it's an academic set. It's not a complete set. It's a total of 30 drawings that we have. I discussed these a little bit, these civil drawings. The only thing I'm going to note as my class's interest is really in the architectural drawings. I'm not really going to discuss the civil much. The one important thing that I do, so what we have is we have details. Let me at least just delve into it. We have written specification. We have building details for sidewalks and ramps. And then here's the site map, the project site with its kind of legal description of where this is. The legal plot that describes exactly how a surveyor would describe this lot, this project, these 2 lots. This is one of them, and then this is another lot here. This is also a demolition plan. All these little X's are trees and things that need to be removed, some houses and things that need to be removed. Utilities are being described. I'm not going to zoom in and really get into the civil, so I'm just kind of looking at it from a distance. But a multi-purpose drawing. This is what I was going to talk about, though, with the architecturals. That is the north arrow. Very important. So that is telling us that I would assume solar north is up, and therefore east is over here, west is over here, and south is down here. That's how I would read that, as a solar north arrow, different from a project north, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Let me go on. And then so the north arrow is there again, and now we have the built project. So right here we could just zoom in, and we can see here's the proposed Deli Flower and Garden Centers. And I mentioned that this is an actual project in Ohio. You could look it up under that name in Butler County, Ohio, and you'll find that this is actually built. So this is the project here, greenhouse area, and this is all the building here, essentially. The civil plans go in early. They need to get approved. And once this is approved, then they go into the architectural drawings and architectural and engineered drawings. So I'm going to jump forward now into the architecturals. Just keeping in mind that that north arrow was facing north, and this entry, so we have this greenhouse area. So it's kind of like an L-shaped, essentially, with the entry here would be facing southwest, right? That's southwest. Okay, now I'm going to go on. So now we have our cover sheet, very important. And I discussed the drawing index in the previous video, so I'm not going to talk about that much. We talked about the importance of the designations, the A's, S's for structural, P for plumbing, M for mechanical, E for electrical. We talked about the issue dates. We talked about consistency from A11 being a floor plan to seeing it again in here, P11 being a plumbing plan. The team is represented on the cover sheet, and then these are the written specifications. And I also spoke about these, just a level of detail that doesn't go into the actual drawings is how I would briefly describe that as written specifications. All right, so a decent cover sheet, clean, neat, orderly, easy to find things, and tells us what's coming up in the set. Okay, now getting into the heart of the matter, I really wanted to look at this this building. Here is the, actually when you Google it, I just want to show it one more time. This is the garden center, so it has this entry here, this truss, piers with stone veneer on them, and then there are two greenhouses kind of flanking or kind of coming in at 90 degrees to each other. And then inside, once you get inside one of them, it looks like this. This is one of the greenhouses. And then they built these fake walls you could see on the right. And you could see it here as well. So two of the greenhouses, or two walls of this entry greenhouse have these kind of fake walls, kind of with these little windows and window boxes and whatnot. So that's just quickly what it looks like. My bigger point being, so here is that entry right there. And before I forget, let me get back to the north arrow, which is now here. So now the north arrow has rotated, right? It was facing north on the page, right? So north on the page is project north. This is solar north, okay? And I know that because this entry was facing southwest before, and the sheet, the building, has been rotated. So now this sheet, this is the big L. I'm going to flip back to the civil plan to describe this. So this is the big L. There's the entry, and it picks up right down here at the very bottom. It picks up here. That's a match line. And then this is, so it's still this big L shape. You could see it here. Here's a key plan. And that tells us, that hatched area tells us that we're looking at this leg of it. And here, same location, nice and clear. This little key plan tells us that we're looking at this leg. So it is a L in this direction. Here, it was an L in this direction. So it has been rotated counterclockwise? Yes, because now when we move to the architectural plans, the north arrow has changed and is now facing what I would call maybe plan west, or the west side of the sheet, so to speak, right? This is the west side of the sheet. So the difference between solar and plan, and how a project could be rotated from civil to architectural drawing. It's very important to know that, okay? So here, the north arrow is, or here, north is over here, which means that this is the east now, this is the west, and this is the south. So the sun rises here and comes around the greenhouse in this direction, right? Comes around on the greenhouse sails. Okay, so important to be able to orient yourself. Okay, moving on from that issue, very important. It's important to think about the floor plan in a set of CDs, construction drawings, as a roadmap for all of the detailed drawings that come later. We're going to go, let me just jump back here quickly, and index is the best place to. And I talked in the previous video about how that happens, essentially, with the callouts, and I'll be talking about that more momentarily. So we have our floor plans here, and kind of the same magnitude. I would kind of group all these together. Floor plans, roof plan, and ceiling plan. So these are the big overall kind of roadmaps of all the details that are coming down here. And this video is only going to focus on this set, just the architecturals. I'm not going to talk about the structurals or the MEP engineering. So the roadmap is, so the floor plans, all these plans are maps for all these details that are going to come, followed by the floor plans, roof plan, and reflected ceiling plan, the RCPs as they're called. We have elevations that follow, and then we have schedules and interior elevation. So as we proceed further and further, we're going to be getting into more and more detail about this building. And then then we have doors, we have enlarged plans of bathrooms, very important to lay those out very carefully, especially for accessibility issues. Then we'll get into some wall section. Then we end with wall sections, which are really the most detailed. That the wall sections really are the place to go if you want to understand how the building is going to get constructed. You want to understand the exterior facade of the building. That's the place. If you want to know what trades are needed to build this thing, I go right to the wall sections and see how the building is getting constructed from the foundation up. Okay, so getting back to our roadmap, here we are. Before zooming in, I like to look around, so I just see the building. Down here I see some notes, so I talked about the key already. Here's the drawing title, and there's my north arrow, so I don't really see too much. Let's take a look at the notes first quickly. So these are wall types, and this black solid hatch here, that wall indicates a drywall partition on a certain size metal stud with drywall on either side, and this cross hatch, and I talked about hatches in the first video, indicates masonry walls of various sizes, and the detail is noted elsewhere on the drawings. So this tells us a little something, but not the whole story. So that's whenever I turn the sheet, that's what I look first, is just for notes and symbols and things like that are going to be my guide on this sheet. Next on the plans, very important, are the dimensions, which happen on the outside of the drawings. Typically we try to put as few dimensions inside the drawing as possible. So all of the exterior bumps, so basically I'm still not going to zoom in yet. I know it's illegible, but my point is that to make my point, we don't really need to zoom in yet. So there are 2 or 3 dimension strings typically running out here and running out here, and the outside one will tell us the overall length of the building, and then as we move in to further strings, it'll tell us where the changes in geometry are. And that's how that wall is. So I'm quite sure that there are dimension strings describing every change in the wall there. And then similarly down here, we'd have an overall string, and then wherever there's a change, we would expect to see dimensions out there. Overall big dimensions and column spacing, I could see even from a distance. I could see running through some rooms. The next important thing, also from this distance, I note the hatches. So these are brick hatches. That is not this. These are wall. This is a wall types. These are hatches telling me what's on the floor actually. Something you would expect to find on a floor plan. So what these hatches are telling me is that this room, greenhouse sales, room 115 with a paver floor, it tells me it has a paver floor, so it repeats it. It is showing the hatch, and it starts here. It starts in this corner and goes that way, just as a hatch. Starts in this corner, goes that way, and then it stops here and here. Just for clarity, there's no reason to put this difficult to read hatch everywhere. They've really actually put in too much, if anything. It's, you know, there are dimensions in here that are difficult to read because of this hatch. So they could have put in a lot less. Actually, it could have just been tiny triangles. But that's what it tells us about that room. Similarly, we have the hatches running in the two corners of the outdoor sales, room number and floor. Display atrium, room number, floor type, more hatch. Here, different floor type. In the hard line area, we have an epoxy stone concrete floor. So the convention here is to find the room and then find the floor type here as well, which is helpful information to get an overview kind of picture of the floor types as you walk through this building. And as you walk through this building, here's the covered entry. Here's the display atrium. And this is a good time to talk about annotation. Actually, let me clean up this mess a little bit. And then I'll walk you through the building. And then I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit as I describe the remainder of the set. I'm going to kind of get you started here and talk about where things point to. So here's my covered entry with all that important information. And let me just zoom in to there and just start looking at one close area. So this, I'm not sure, this, let me bring down the size of this a little bit. That's better. For A12, I'm curious about that one. I'm just going to take a quick look. For A12, so here's A12, and here's 4 A12. So that is a detail of the pavers on top of gravel, on top of compact gravel with a pipe running through it. So this again is the road map, and these are the symbols. This symbol is a little weird because it's just kind of floating there in space. So here on sheet A12, detail 6, we're going to cut through a planter. It also pertains there, and it pertains there. So there are 3 planters, and those are the details. Right in this area, I don't see any other call-outs. We start to walk through the door. There's the door call-out. So when we find the door schedule, we could find out more detail on that door here. Here's a area where it looks like this planter meets the door that meets this wall. So a couple things are coming together. So that I would find on sheet A81, drawing E. Same here, a big corner detail, a lot of masonry coming together. Same sheet, A1, detail M. So this is what I meant by the road map. Then we're into the atrium. So here's our entry. We could walk into the atrium this way, or we could walk through this way to checkout, or maybe this is just an exit if it's checkout. Preferably an exit, but people walk through them anyway. This is the display atrium. This is the interior wall with the little windows, and so this is really a greenhouse building with these 2 walls being built up to look kind of a little residential feel to it, I guess. And we could see what those look like on sheet A51, drawing 1 and drawing 2. And those, because I know this arrow, is telling me that those are interior elevations of what it's like to look at that wall. And this wall, 3. We didn't look at that wall. Not much to learn there. I guess it's just a storefront kind of system and we don't need to look at it. But we have 3 walls here that we're going to look at. Doors into the greenhouse. This greenhouse is the big prefab greenhouse. Other things we see here are floor drains. Big general notes, hard to read, unfortunately. So I think this is describing the window. It says glass panel, overhead doors. So probably provided by the greenhouse manufacturer. So this is all prefab coming by a greenhouse manufacturer. Doors out, another area. There is trellis overhead here. That's probably a floor detail. The detail out at the curb, that's a little odd. Detail talking about metal fences. So I'm not going to go through the entire piece, and then, well, here, this I do want to talk about this. So on the floor plan here, as we walk through the space, it jumps around quite a bit. And then here we run down the perimeter and we see a lot of call outs. So this is telling us a lot of little details as this thing kind of jogs in and jogs out. And these kind of I guess it's the foundation is built up to accept this greenhouse, obviously. So that's the details that we would find there. Here is the masonry wall hatch that we saw, and then these are very important. These are the sections, 9-1, 9-2, that's where we're going to find wall sections. So a lot of important information there. The heights of these walls would be found there. These are the grid lines for the structure. There's the steel structure. So greenhouse, all of this area on the right, greenhouse by greenhouse people. This is also greenhouse, I believe. Excuse me. And then this is greenhouse as well. And then this area here is actually, or maybe it's only this area. Hold on. Let me just clean this up a little bit for you. This masonry hatch, that is CMU, concrete masonry units, or commonly called cinder blocks. In the business, we don't professionally call them cinder blocks. CMU. Okay. Here. There's a loading dock in the back. This is loading dock. Here for the bathrooms, offices, and then down here. So this is just basic, and there's a mezzanine. There's a stair up here, and there's a second story above this part. This is big box store, kind of like Kmart, just simple CMU walls and a steel roof frame. The rest is greenhouse, but the builder had to coordinate and provide the foundations for it. So it's a tricky little job with a bunch of different parts. And here's checkout. I'm going to jump ahead real quick to one interesting drawing, even though I said I wasn't going to look at the mechanicals. So A11 is the floor plan, and I'm going to scroll all the way up past structure, so I'm looking down here. Plumbing, mechanical. So here's mechanical 1-1. And why I would come here is because with these greenhouses, I'm curious what's heated and cooled and what's not. And so this is the same floor plan, laid out just the same. There's the north arrow. And this is showing me this is all ductwork, providing heat and cool. And it only lives in this area, which is not that surprising. So this is the concrete masonry unit kind of building. I think that this piece down here is greenhouse, but they just brought the air conditioning in there, I guess, for the people that are standing there all the time, just to make it a little more comfortable. So limited air conditioning. So that tells me that this is the conditioned space of this project, meaning that's the cool, that's the air conditioned part, it's the heated part, and it, so in the winter it keeps the cold out and the heat in, vice versa in the summer. Okay. All right, so that's kind of a big overview of the floor plan. Very, very important drawing. You have to know your way around the floor plan, and there's a lot of little call outs and details, but once you get to know them all, it just makes the rest of the sheet that much easier. So I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit now. I'm not going to go over every sheet with that level of detail. So here's the floor plan. And we talked about line types and how they have very specific meanings. So this is a big dash, little dash, big dash, little dash line, and that is a match line. And that is telling me that this floor plan continues on another sheet. And I don't see that written anywhere here, but that is what a match line does. And then when we come to our next sheet, there's the match line again. So same match line, same exact location. So this little bit of the building here is pictured right here. And then you'd have to kind of do the math and make dimensions go from one to the next. So this here is the seasonal plants. I'm not going to zoom in for everything. This is just like a gravel fenced in area. The nice pavers continue down here on the sidewalk and they step right in just to that area. And then there's a trellised, it looks like a trellised area right here along the perimeter fence. But I think this is all just open with nothing. Here's another wall keys or wall notes telling us about different wall types. Might be information about this wall type here. Call outs at the curbs, call outs around this fenced area. And then we have some details. So this is where things get a little odd, and you could start to judge the quality of a set, how clear it is, how easy this is to read, are things where you expect to find them. All of these floor details, even though they're details, they kind of do make sense to hear. This is a big flooring job. The greenhouses are one thing, the big Kmart kind of box stores another, but then there's really just a lot of flooring. So having this here, I would find that kind of handy. So as I walked through the spaces, I knew how all the different floor and paver types were built. Some of them here, right here in the greenhouses, have heating pipes that run through, actually. So we have a heated floor in the greenhouse. Interesting. It's not a heated conditioned space, but it has a heated floor. Now, unlike that, here's a ladder to the roof hatch. That's odd. I would not expect to find that here. If I had to go search for that, I would be looking near the roof. I'd be looking at wall sections. I wouldn't expect to find it here. So that just definitely feels like something they just kind of stuck in there because they didn't want to waste paper. Today, I'm making this in 2023. Hopefully more and more prints are digital and less papers being wasted. So I do want to be, when I was in practice years ago and on big jobs, you'd be printing hundreds of sheets sometimes. So you didn't want to waste paper. Definitely. That's a real issue. I don't want to make light of that. But the importance of clarity is also super important. Hopefully we're working more digitally and we don't need to print as much as we did in the past. That's really kind of what I'm getting at. All right, moving on. I'm going to pick up the pace now. I think the review of this, I think, gave you a good sense. Now we're on to the mezzanine plan. So we took the stairs back here. We have bathrooms back here. We have some offices and there's a staircase. We took it up and we came to the mezzanine that has storage, office, and open to below at the loading dock. This is all, there's no second floor in the greenhouses. More of the same there. And then toilet details. So super odd. You know, they kind of just have to be there on the sheet somewhere, so they threw them in. And more call-outs. All right, moving on. So staying zoomed out, this big drawing is the roof plan. I see, what else do we see here? I see some details at the bottom right and some details at the top right. The rake detail at the entry roof and the gutter detail. That makes sense on a roof plan. So some specifics about how the roofs are being constructed. And eave gutter details, exposed eaves. So all makes sense that this stuff is here. And again, now we're at A21 drawings. So this is drawing 1. So it's probably, without zooming in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would expect to see some of these call-outs. Some of them, not all of them. So some of them could definitely be referring to other places, other sheets coming down the line. But I would expect that some of these call-outs are telling us about these details. Okay. And then this is also, so as I gave you that kind of high-level review of this tour of this facility, this is also where I came to get information. So this is the greenhouse by manufacturer. So there's no real building going on there besides the foundation. I also see here that there's shade cloths, also by the greenhouse supplier. But it's kind of starting to paint a picture of me as I walk through the space, what's below my feet, what the flooring is, and what's overhead, what the roof looks like. Here, standing seam metal roof. So this is kind of, kind of made to look real good as an entry. They kind of put the money and the care where the entry is. Same here, standing seam metal roof. So it's really a lot of, relatively speaking, inexpensive greenhouse and inexpensive big box store. But then they kind of put these pretty touches on at the entries, which is common practice in retail. Okay. And then this roof type here on the big box store, we could see is EPDM single ply membrane. So a flat roof that you would find on on such a store is exactly what that is. Okay, so that is the roof plan. On to the ceiling plan. So this is a roof, and here's the mezzanine ceiling plan. Here's a legend with a lot of symbols. I definitely want to zoom in and take a quick look at that. And this is a reflected ceiling plan. It's typically called that, but they just called it a ceiling plan. A reflected ceiling plan is more specifically not when you walk into a space and look up, but you're actually walking into a space and looking down, and it's as if there's a mirror on the ground. So that's very important. So we're still walking through the space. We know what kind of roof types we have now, but this ceiling plan is going to tell us now what's on the ceilings. But it's also important to remember that in terms of orienting yourself, you're not walking in here and looking up. When something is as symmetrical as this, it doesn't really matter. But it is important in little spaces that are not symmetrical. So this fan, or whatever it is, if we walk into the woman's room, it is at the back left. Just like this fan or whatever it is, it's at the back right of the men's room. That's where it belongs. Not as if you look up and then it changes its location. If you were looking up, you could view this as being kind of on top of you, behind you. So hard to kind of describe, but an important and simple clarification. It's a reflected ceiling plan. Okay, so let's just take a quick look in these spaces, especially when we get into this conditioned space. So we have exposed metal deck and joists. So again, just like going into Kmart or Target, that's exactly what you have up there. You have big cinder CMU walls that come up, and you have big exposed joists that run across them. And then these are ceiling fans, and these are lights. And then here it's confirming what we already knew, that this is a greenhouse. We saw it on the roof plan and we see it on the ceiling plan. Let's just take a quick look at that. So we have some notes about ceilings. These are lay-in ceilings or acoustic ceiling tile ceilings. And then fire suppression, very important note here. Fire suppression system installed throughout. The final design drawings are to be done by an engineer. This is a super important note, and it makes sense on a ceiling plan, but it deserves to be bigger than this. That's a, for a builder looking for high dollar items. This is an important note for them. Fluorescent lights, 2x2 and 4x4, surface mounted. What are these called? High intensity lights, I think, or halide lights, I believe they are. Pendant hung, I believe they're halide lights, HID. I forget the abbreviation right now. It might be halide. 8-inch strip fluorescents and exhaust fans going to the exterior. All bathrooms have to exhaust to the exterior, and ceiling fans. So that is typically what we see. A lot of the same lights. We see the ceilings, the acoustic ceiling tiles back here in the break room and the offices where we would expect to see them. And the lay-in lights there as well. Okay? And then mezzanine, same. That's the tiles, and then this part looks like it's open. All right, moving on to the elevation. So just let me circle back. I promise I'm moving on. The elevations, as I look around this floor plan, I don't see elevation tags really. Typically I would expect to see elevation tags out here with arrows pointing to the elevations, but I don't see them. I don't see any here, so we might be left to kind of piece this together ourselves, which by this point should not really be a problem, right? Because we've kind of walked through it. There's our truss. There's our atrium greenhouse. There's that fancy little entry. I gotta zoom in a little bit for you. I know it's helpful to see the drawings, so I do want to zoom in, but at the same time, I'm kind of trying to keep like a high-level review of these and not so much dig into all the little notes. So this is the front. We have that long stretch on the right, and then here is the outdoor area that we're looking at. I'm not exactly sure what that is. And then typical of elevations, you'll have some notes about, so most of this is just going to say greenhouse by others. But then here we see stone veneer on the greenhouse knee wall. So we're outside the building there. And again, I like to look around for notes, but I'm really not seeing anything here. Here's an elevation. Let's just zoom in and see. So I'm not finding the best descriptions of where we are. So we're looking at a greenhouse. We have some low walls there. So I'd have to circle back and try to find this if I couldn't figure it out. There's that big truss. I know where we are there, entry. But this doesn't describe it. Doors into greenhouses under, so entry roof. So I have to find the, all right, so this is underneath. So this, maybe these lines are this truss cut at a weird angle kind of, or kind of describing how they touch that. And then this is specifically showing the doors without much information. I mean, there's a couple dimensions, so not too much there. And then this is probably around the back. There's that entry beyond. That's that other one from the side. So this is coming from a side. And view facing south. View facing south. So that's helpful. And this one is view facing west. And that confirms what we were thinking, what we knew. That's north. So this is west, right? This is north. So this is west. So this elevation is facing west. It's not you facing the elevation. Which way does the elevation look? It's looking west. Okay, so that's that page. More elevations. I'm not going to dig into this. I'm going to speed it up. So now we have rear and side elevations. Here we see greenhouses. Here we could see the concrete block portion of the building. Here we're seeing some trellises and piers and details on them. So really kind of zooming in here to some real, for the people who are going to be constructing these gates, exactly what they should look like, the size of the wood, the roofing material on these little trellises. So again, roadmap, and now we're zooming in. Okay, now we're into the interiors. So we've moved to 5.1, so now we're getting into some real details. So going back to that display atrium, these are our 3 interior elevations that we had. Spoken of. So this is essentially greenhouse walls that have been kind of prettied up. So they have this ephes wall system, kind of a cheap stucco system. Some windows put in. There's the bathrooms beyond. There's a hallway going back, I believe it was to the office, and then there's the stairs, dashed lines. So behind this wall, the stairs lead up, and that's why there's nothing there. Just drywall. So that was at the north wall, Project North, not Solar North. This was the west wall, Project West, but actually looking north in terms of solar, so that agrees. And then the same, just so some interior brick there. Okay, and then there's that other wall that connects to the larger greenhouse. More interior elevations, and now we're getting into some schedules. So here's the room finish and the door frame schedule. So I'm just going to zoom right in and talk about how we read those. Okay, so I would definitely review the finish notes. That's kind of high-level stuff, typically. Like greenhouse walls, no finishes required. Drywall ceilings to be painted. And then otherwise, on the floor plan, again, we have our room numbers. We have our names. All of that should match. And then when we go to our computer room up on the 2nd floor, we could see that we could see what's on the north, east, south, and west walls. And that's paint on 3 of them and unfinished block on 1. We could see what's our floor materials are. So here they're going to start using some abbreviations that they might not have described to us, unfortunately. Keys are nice. A lot of them are super common. That's vinyl ceramic tile there. So, but it's always nice to provide abbreviations so nothing is mistaken. Mistakes happen. Misunderstandings happen. So this is also a good place to come for, again, kind of that high-level overview to see all the floors that run throughout the building. The bases are, what sits right where the floor meets the wall, so that's not so interesting. And again, here, this ceiling should agree with what we saw on the ceiling plan, of course. This door information, this would really go right to the door people, whoever's providing doors. Most of this, some of it's done by the greenhouse, and other parts you're going to have your door contractor. Specific sizes, the materials, the hardware sets, remarks. Doors are really a kind of a specialty thing. Very, very, a lot of information to spend. And then hardware gets even more trickier. But yes, the designers have to line all that up with the help of door manufacturers, help architects create these things. We're not door specialists, but we know where to find door specialists. They help create this, and then the people who install the doors, again, door specialists. So the architect's kind of the go-between between the door manufacturer and the door installers. Okay, we're almost there. Let's see, 6.1. So now we're getting into some details. going to be pretty quick about it. So here we have trellis information, and it tells us where. Here we're zooming in, getting some bigger drawings of the bathrooms, which is very important. Dimensions are critical. These circles show the turning radius of a wheelchair, so it is very important to code. The municipality, the code inspectors will come and make sure that all of this, if this says 5'2", it's truly 5'2", and it's not 5'1". So these dimensions are super critical in here. And what designers do, especially in critical areas, if I were doing this, typically you would provide the critical dimensions of 5'2" and 3'2", and then you would just say this is what remains. A vanity you have to be specific about, so there's not a lot of area in here. Like just like this little bit of wall right here, for instance, you know, that could be 6 inches or it could be 5 inches. That's not very important. This dimension is super critical. This one might be maybe less so, but the accessible parts of a bathroom designer are very, very important, just suffice to say. Interior elevations of bathrooms, even when there's not too much going on and it's just tile, it really needs to be drawn. So typically all walls in bathrooms, kitchen cabinets, in the break room probably, super critical dimensions to put that vanity together that I was just pointing out. So now we're into the details. Now we're into the wall sections, 9-1, 9-2. So these are the last two drawings that we're going to look at. So again, going back to that floor plan around the perimeter, this is what tells us how the building really gets constructed, how it holds up the roof, essentially. So everything's called a wall section. They're doing a good job describing where they are through the wall between the atrium and the hard lines, at the hard lines, and that's what these are telling us, what's on each side of each one. So this looks nice and clear. There we are upstairs. There's our atrium steel coming in from the side. There's our flat roofs. Here are dimensions to the roof. So this is where we could see our elevations and begin to understand how tall this structure is. We could see how slab details come together. We'd see more in the civil drawings or the structural drawings on concrete details like that. But this is a high level overview of what's going on with some specific dimensions also. We could see brick on the face here, brick on the face here. They're calling out sidings. I could see something running there. And then I could also see just plain walls. And the same here. More of the same, really. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I know it was kind of quick. There's a lot of information, but keep in mind, you spend the most time up here really getting to know the building, paying attention to what they're going to be telling you about later, and then the further you go along, the more it kind of makes sense. And then, you know, always note things that just aren't where you would expect to find them. Okay, a lot of fun reading construction drawings. I hope you enjoy it. Good luck.